On October 2nd, 1957, while visiting Uganda after his pilgrimage, Mr. Olinga received a cablegram from the beloved guardian announcing his elevation to the rank of Hand of the Cause of God. Mr. Olinga had been a Baha'i for only 5 years. Mrs. Violette Nachavani recalls Enoch Olinga's reaction.
In one of the last messages of the beloved guardian, when he appointed the last contingent of the 8 hands of the cause, 3 of them were in the continent of Africa. Bill Sears, John Robarts, and Enoch Olinga. My father was always the only one there, and he received the messages of Shoghi Effendi and he would convey it to others. So Enoch was visiting Uganda from West Africa. So my father called him to our home and gave him the cable of the beloved guardian. When he read this, after a little while, he prostrated himself full on the floor with his arms stretched and legs stretched, and he just remained like that for a while. And then I remembered I had seen this scene only once before. The first year we arrived in Uganda, through a friend who was not a Baha'i, we were invited to a very solemn ceremony in the palace of the king of the Baganda. At this ceremony, all the chiefs, head chiefs from all over the district had come, and they would pay their homage to their king. And every one of them, as they approached the king, this is the way they saluted him and paid their homage. They would fall on the ground fully with their arms stretched and head on the ground. And Enoch did this spontaneously when he received this cable of the beloved guardian. His spontaneous reaction was to fall flat on the ground, put his head down. And it was as if he was in the presence of Shoghi Effendi, his king.
Mrs. Javaduk Kadem, the widow of Hand of the Cause Zerula Kadem, describes the unique station of a Hand of the Cause of God.
The Hand of the Cause, to me, they were destined. A few of the Hand of the Cause that from time of Abdul Baha and Abdul Baha referred to them, referred to the family. To me, they were chosen by Baha'u'llah and by Abdul Baha and the beloved guardian from the time probably even before they were born. Hand of the Cause of God is a person strong in the faith, devotion to Baha'u'llah, and with a sacrificial element, or the whole being has to be a sacrifice for the faith. Made people happy, made people confirm, and made people understanding that the faith of God is for service and happiness. It's a joyful thing. They're a joyful being, because in this sacrifice they satisfy their heart and soul. Mr. Olinga was from Africa and Mr. Khadim was from Iran, but they mostly they met in the Holy Land together. You know, the culture doesn't mean anything. Any culture, the devotion is devotion. And the Hands of God, they had all these qualities, whether from east or the west or any part of the country. And Mr. Olinga, he was a very cheerful man. He was a very simple man. He was a loving man. He, when you looked at him, said, "Oh my God, what a creation." This was Olinga.
Mrs. Marguerite Sears, former pioneer to Africa and widow of Hand of the Cause William Sears, shares her cherished memories of Enoch Olinga and her dear husband.
My husband, William Sears, and Enoch Olinga were both Hands of the Cause appointed in Africa, and they were very, very happy that they were assigned to the continent of Africa, even though neither one of them were able to stay there very much longer after they were appointed, unfortunately, because they had to travel all over the world during the 10-year crusade. wherever they went, they brought humor with them, and also pathos, because they were able to wring the hearts with their talks, and they always lifted them as well with their humor. It was always a joy to hear them.
In 1958, the laying of the foundation stone of the Mother Temple of Africa was held in Kampala, Uganda, with several hands of the cause and thousands of believers present. Enoch Olinga spoke and translated for this sacred event, as well as the African Teaching Conference that followed.
Before leaving Western Africa for Kenya, Mr. Olinga married Elizabeth from British Cameroon, creating an intertribal marriage. Their partnership continued to be a shining example through all their travels.
When he came to Nairobi, he first came on his own. It was towards the end of 1963 or early 1964. Then his wife Elizabeth and their youngest son Lenny joined him in Nairobi. So for the first time I saw Elizabeth, his wife. She was such an elegant looking lady and very radiant. I think she was just the right partner for Mr. Olinga. They made such a good match, such a lovely couple. My favorite story of Mr. Olinga goes back to many, many years ago in Nairobi when we were having a national convention in a hall in Nairobi. I have a little girl who was born in Nairobi. Her name is Soveida, which means the pupil of the eye. Because she was born in that continent, this is a befitting name for her. She was about 3 years old, and I was in the convention hall. When something happened, I noticed that a friend, that's how I perceived it, was unkind to her. That offended me. So I took the hand of my daughter and was leaving the convention hall. Mr. Olinga noticed it, and he came after me. He grabbed my arm and asked me to sit down and listen to something that he had to say. He held my hand in his hand and said, "I understand you have an expression in Persian which says you must thicken your skin." He looked deeply in my eye and said, "My dear, that's what you need to do. You have to develop a thick skin in order to be able to tolerate the things that you see in this world which appear to be injustices and inequities, and they may offend you. But once you develop this thick skin, you don't let anything get under your skin, and you remain a happy, radiant soul."
Hand of the Cause of God, Amatul Baha Ruhia Kanum lovingly recalls her experiences with Hand of the Cause, Enoch Olinga.
Enoch was a very intelligent man, educated man, and had this delightful African sense of humor, and he was a very, very pleasant person to be with. Me and I were great personal friends. For the Baha'i faith, which at that time had spread all over the world, and even the minor islands, let alone the nations and major islands, and we had so many Baha'is of so many different backgrounds. It was wonderful that Enoch Olinga was one of the hands of the cause. Enoch was appointed by Shoghi Effendi. He came here, he saw Shoghi Effendi. After the passing of the guardian, he worked with his fellow hands. We had our meetings here because the hands of the cause, after the passing of Shoghi Effendi, until we succeeded in electing the Universal House of Justice, ran the cause of God and its affairs.
After the election of the first Universal House of Justice in 1963, Hand of the Cause of God, Enoch Olinga, had the priceless bounty of opening the first Baha'i World Congress in London, England.
Friends, here is the text of the cablegram which was sent to the entire Baha'i world by the hands of the Cause of God. Occasion worldwide celebrations, most great jubilee, commemorating centenary Baha'u'llah throne his sovereignty with hearts overflowing gratitude. To jubilation, entire Baha'i world, victorious completion, beloved guardian's unique crusade, now added humble gratitude, profound thanksgiving, followers Baha'u'llah for erection, universal house justice. August body to whom all believers must turn, whose destiny is to guide unfoldment his embryonic world order through administrative institutions prescribed by Baha'u'llah, elaborated by Abdul Baha, laboriously erected by Shoghi Effendi, and ensure early dawn, golden age phase, when the word of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. Beloved friends, the prophets and seers of old long to witness the glories of this day and to participate in this matchless, this peerless occasion. Without the slightest doubt, however, these holy souls and denizens of still much higher and loftier spiritual worlds are rejoicing with us today, are watching with delight what we are doing, guiding and inspiring us. At this juncture, beloved friends, I would urge you all to strive to banish every conceivable detracting thought which may race through your minds, and submerge yourselves in the sea of spiritual communion and experience. Friends, the beloved of our hearts, our beloved Shoghi Effendi, is in our midst now. It is a tremendous joy and relief to know that he is with us, pouring into our minds, soothing and strengthening us with his thoughts. And if we gaze more keenly, friends, we shall see our vision expanding further and further. May the blessings of Baha'u'llah be with us all and enable us to fully appreciate the greatness of his station and of this day, so that we may, when we return to our respective homes and countries, make use of the dynamic forces which have been released during this time. Friends, Allahu Akbar.